Hey y'all, Devin the Albino Jackass, Old Hickory 2.0 coming at you here today with a video. We're going to be talking about Star Wars, we're going to be talking about the future of the franchise, we're going to be talking about the Acolyte a little bit, we're going to talk about Ahsoka for a little bit. But before we get into that, I'm fast approaching, rather, 2,000 views on the channel, and that's not a lot in the grand scheme of YouTube. That is a grain of sand on the world's longest beach. If you ever seen that episode of Cops, but it is nothing on the grand scheme of things. But the fact that 2,000 people sat down to watch my videos is amazing to me. So I thank all of you watching these crappy little videos. That's time of your life you're never going to get back. So I greatly appreciate that. Thank you all. And on that note, I do want to talk about a couple of the YouTubers that inspired me to get into this. One is The Blind Woodsman. I'll be sure to link these channels down below as well. The Blind Woodsman, if you've ever seen his channel, he is a blind fella that does a lot of woodworking. And he's managed to set his tools up and get his equipment set up the way that he needs to make sure that he can do his favorite thing in the world despite his disability. And that is, as somebody who's visually impaired myself, that is just that's amazing to me. And the guy is just flowing with positivity as well. Just a giant grizzly bear of a man. So love the fella. God bless him. I wish his channel nothing but the best. And the other one, to be honest with you, is Star Wars Theory. I always admired his honesty, man. He is not afraid to say his opinion. As to quote "Oh brother, where art thou?" He is not afraid to say his piece and count to three, man. That, and especially in today's world on the internet, that was very impressive to me. And on top of that, if you can get me interested in fan fictions, you're doing something right. I almost universally write those off as, oh god, this is just going to be someone's wish fulfillment. But the guy is just genuinely a talented writer. I want to know why exactly Lucasfilm has not hired this guy. You have somebody who's passionate, who knows the lore, who's very, very good at what he does. Oh, excuse me. He's very, very good at what he does. Hire the guy, man. He deserves a shot just as much as anyone. He's not a shill, man. He doesn't pander to anyone. If he likes something, he's going to tell you. If he doesn't, he's going to tell you. And that's how I'm going to try to be on this channel. If I like something, I'm going to be honest about it. If I don't, I'm not going to be honest about it. And on that note, I think that brings us nicely into the topic of today's video. Star Wars. Now, we're going to talk about Ahsoka first. I think we're going to open with Ahsoka. So, a lot of people didn't like it. I actually did. And if you are familiar with my channel at all at this point, you know that I'm not a big fan of Disney, Lucasfilm, mainly because of all the woke feminist BS. And I got to admit, I did not get a lot of that in Ahsoka. I didn't. Sabine, although she had never been shown to be force sensitive in Rebels, at least that I can think of, she had to work for the little bit of force sensitivity she was shown to have. You know, she wasn't overpowered like Rey in the sequel trilogy. There was no real grandstanding. There was no, the Jedi were never friendly to women. None of that crap. None of that. Ahsoka gets her ass kicked like 3 separate times, twice by Balin, once by Anakin, although Anakin does eventually let her win. She gets beat 3 times by, well, she gets beat twice, both by dudes. So, no, I gotta say, not woke. God bless Ray Stevens as well. I'm not gonna make this a full review of Ahsoka, but he absolutely nailed Balin out of the park, man. I want to see more of that guy. I know it's going to require a recasting that may be controversial. But go ahead and do it, man. Ahsoka really had its moments. It was good, but it was not great. A lot of people want to call Dave Filoni the GOAT. I'm sorry, guys. If Dave Filoni were NFL quarterbacks, he's not Tom Brady, man. He is Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm saying it. He's good enough he can show you something amazing, and you're like, oh, holy crap. But then he can turn around and drop some of the worst things you've ever seen. Book of Boba Fett enters the chat. So, that's. I really enjoyed Ahsoka despite a lot of the problems with Ahsoka, especially the choreography was rough, but you would really have to stretch to get woke out of Ahsoka. Having a female in the lead does not make something woke. If it does, my character in Fallout 4 would like a word with you. But I'm sorry. I enjoyed Ahsoka beyond. I thought it was all in all a B plus, not great, but a good, fun ride. I thought it added some interesting things to the universe. A lot of people didn't like how Thrawn was portrayed. I got to admit, there were some things I was kind of shaking my head at. But as far as some of the tactics that he used, although done poorly in the show, I kind of got the gist of what he was going for. He's basically trying to do what the French did at Dunkirk, or what the Soviets did in the beginning of Barbarossa, which is basically fight to buy yourself time. You're not necessarily trying to win. You're not necessarily trying to kill everybody. You're just trying to slow them down. At that point, it does seem like you're just throwing lives away, but it kind of is. You kind of are, but it is for a purpose. So I really was willing to forgive that, although please step it up in season 2. Please portray Thrawn a little better. But I really enjoyed Ahsoka. I really enjoyed Andor. There were parts of Obi-Wan I liked, although parts I didn't. I don't think Obi-Wan breaks the lore in any real way. Especially if you go back and watch A New Hope, it kind of seemed like Obi-Wan and Leia already knew each other. So I'm really kind of forgiving on that front. But then the Acolyte dropped, and oh dear God, that is to this. I am not exaggerating when I say that is probably the worst show I think I've ever seen. The absolute worst. From the writing, the dialogue, the acting, the special effects, all of that was awful except for Soul. Except for the Korean guy, I forget his name, I am so sorry. He carried that show on his back, man. He tried his best. He learned English specifically for that role. Love that guy. And they took his character and they took him out like a bitch. I was not happy about that. The show breaks the lore in about 6 different ways. It is like the worst skateboard injury a doctor has ever seen. When it comes to the anatomy of Star Wars, what this show does. This show ruptures it in about 7 different places. And a lot of people are saying, oh, why do you hate the show this much? Well, maybe if it wasn't the worst thing since fucking pediatric cancer, people wouldn't hate on it so much. All right? Everything about it is broken. You break it by bringing Ki-Adi-Mundi into it. You break it by bringing Darth Plagueis into it at a time when he's like 20. He probably should have no idea any of this is going on at this point. You break it by having Moshi and Oshi is a little immaculate conception. It breaks the lore in so many different ways. I remember in the comics, it took Vader like 3 or 4 times to try to bleed his crystal, and the lightsaber kept blowing up on him. Apparently old Oshi can do it in 5 seconds. The show fundamentally breaks Star Wars in so many ways, and that leads us into the future, which doesn't look bright, especially if you look at the Rey movie and who's going to be directing that. They're still giving that fucking idiot Rian Johnson his own trilogy. I am convinced that Kathleen Kennedy is just hell-bent on driving Lucasfilm into the ground. I really am. And there's a lot of good people that work at Lucasfilm that don't get the credit they necessarily deserve. But I gotta tell you, Kathleen Kennedy is literally that. It is just the South Park parody at this point, man. Just the pandering, the identity politics, double down on all the stupid bullshit that people do not want in their entertainment. They're gonna double down on all of that. And in general, Hollywood is starting to move away from a lot of the woke nonsense. Lucasfilm is going to, I'm calling it now, they are going to be like that Japanese soldier on the island 20 years after the war is over. That is how intent they are in sticking with this, man. So I'm not optimistic about the future of Lucasfilm. They dropped the little teaser trailer of The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I don't know if that's going to be the title, but if that's the title, I'm not optimistic. I genuinely hope it's good. I want Star Wars to be good. Look at Fallout. That show, is it perfect? No, but it is great, and it stays away from a lot of the stupid. There's a little bit in there, but they're not beating you over the head with it. If you make a good piece of art, your values are going to come out. I'm completely fine with that. I don't want beat over the head with it. And that's what Lucasfilm seems to be intent on doing. So the future, I would say, is not very bright, especially with the people that they're bringing in, like lesbian Homelander, and I forget her name. Whoever's is directing the Rey movie, who's who's again one of these Hollywood feminist types. So I'm not super optimistic there. All in all, guys, I think Star Wars, if it's not already dead, is terminally ill at this point. I think that's where I'm going to end the video for today. But guys, again, thanks for helping me get to this point. You know, I've almost got 20 subscribers. Woo! But the fact that anyone at all is taking the time out of their day to watch my videos is just absolutely amazing to me, and I thank you for it. You know, like I said at the beginning, that's time you'll never get back. I know these videos aren't exactly the greatest. I'm bringing YouTube back to 2009, bitches. But, guys, thanks for watching. I've been the Albino Jackass. Thanks for listening to me, hee-haw, guys. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.